All right. So, welcome. You are at Family Voices Colorado's Caregiver Conversations for May. We do these the first Thursday of every month. And this time it happens to be May 1st. Happy May Day, everybody. We're getting close to spring, or we are in spring, and we're getting close to the end of the school year craziness. So, we're glad you're here. Tonight we're talking about saving money. So able accounts and disability trusts, ways people with disabilities can save money without losing out on the benefits they need that often have asset limits. So there's max amounts they can have in assets and still be eligible. So I will continue on. All right. So we do these the first Thursday of every month and on a variety of topics. And sorry, I've got a kiddo trying to talk to me and while I'm trying to talk too. It's very distracting. We do different topics every month. No, go. We'll talk about it later. Right here. So this month is on saving money. Sorry, keeping it real over here. June is on community first choice, so a big change that's happening for a lot of people come July and gradually throughout the next year. Talking about different paid caregiver programs. Have a really cool speaker coming to talk about helping your child navigate rejection and bullying, succession planning, Medicaid waivers, and guardianship and supported decision making. Whew, a busy rest of the year. We'll hopefully do a kind of bonus session on letters of medical necessity sometime in July, because we do not do it the first Thursday of July because it's like 4th of July week, which nobody wants to be there for. So the only other note I have for you guys is please avoid sharing private health information when you ask questions during these meetings. We're recording it. We want to post the recording on our website and on our YouTube. And to do that, we can't do it if we have all of your personal private information on the recording. So please ask your questions more broadly, even if it is a somewhat specific question. Then you're welcome to put questions in the chat as we go along or raise your hand and we'll pause and do that. We've got a couple of great guest speakers tonight, so you don't have to listen to me jabber all night. You get some great expertise and I will let them introduce themselves when they each come up. So we've got 2 speakers for you tonight, one on special needs trusts and one on able accounts, and then should have some time for questions towards the end too, if you've got more questions. All right. Chris, are you on here? I thought I saw you come on.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Awesome. There you are. Yes. It always hides all of the people, so I can't find them on there. So awesome.
And my daughter comes in.
I know. They have just this
Thank
sixth
you.
sense for you're starting to talk.
Oh, close it, please. Close it, please. I'm sorry. What was that, Megan?
You're good. I was just saying they have a sixth sense where it's your time to talk that they must come in and have your attention. It's the
Yes.
lovely evenings. So
They see
awesome.
a closed door and they have to enter. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyways.
Absolutely. Awesome.
All right.
I will stop sharing so you can share, and then I will watch the chat for you and all of those things. If you want to introduce who you are and all the things, why are you an expert in this? Because I mean, you know you are. That's why we asked you to come.
Expert's a funny word to me. My name's Chris Brock. I am managing attorney of CCDC Probate Power, which is a social enterprise program within CCDC, Colorado Cross Disability Coalition. I do special needs trusts, guardianships, able accounts, everything under the sun in that realm. And yeah, I've been doing this about 8 years now. So it's been doing it a while. So I will share my screen and let's see. It says sharing is not turned on.
Sorry, I'll fix it. It's my fault.
Okay.
It's one of the nights. All right, there. Now you should be able to.
All right. Okay, y'all see that? All right, good. All right, cool.
Well, it's just black for me. Can other people see it?
There we go. How's that? Better?
There we go. Now I can see pictures.
All right. Special needs trusts, like I said. CCDC probate power. As I said, I'm the managing attorney and offer different services, regular estate planning for families who don't have a special needs kid, special needs planning, which is 60% of what I do, guardianship conservatorships, probably the other 40%, legal consultation services, anything from help with able accounts or research into weird Medicaid SSI things that just come about. So yeah. Anyways, so what is special needs planning? It is just basic estate planning, but with the added need for planning for someone in your family who has the need for public benefits, Medicaid, SSI, food stamps, something like that, and they need to maintain their eligibility for those public benefits, and which usually means a special needs trust. So that's what we're going to talk about today for the most part. All right. So, what is a special needs trust? It is a document in which there is somebody named called a trustee, and they manage money or property or certain accounts on behalf of somebody who has special needs, has a disability, has some reason why they need to maintain public benefits. Often, this money comes from an inheritance or a personal injury settlement, something like that, a lump sum of money, basically. And the whole purpose is to preserve their eligibility for public benefits, like I said. And the whole point of it, other than the public benefits, is to give that person independence, give them better quality of life, while maintaining Medicaid and SSI eligibility. Because as we all know, Medicaid and SSI does not give you a ton to live on. I mean, SSI is what, $950 a month or something, $970 a month. And so it's nice when you have an adult child and they're on SSI, but you can have a trust that allows them to buy clothes and electronics and all this stuff. And we'll go over that here soon. So what's so special about special needs trust? Like I said, it helps maintain public benefit eligibility. But why does this certain document count? What's the whole, like, why is this document special and other documents aren't? Well, it's based on how the trust is written. So it is completely 100% discretionary, meaning the trustee of the special needs trust has sole, absolute, and unfettered discretion as to how to distribute the assets of the trust. So other types of trust, just a regular revocable trust, the beneficiary can go and say, hey, you need to give me X amount of money for this new house that's written into the trust. Special needs trusts, not exactly like that. Special needs trust trustee, as long as they're doing their due diligence and they're not just hoarding the money just to hoard the money, they're allowed to tell the beneficiary, no, this is not a good use of your special needs trust. And for the most part, that's what they say goes. So it's important to consider who your trustee is down the line when you give them that authority, because it's very strong authority. The special needs trust is created for the sole benefit of the beneficiary, which means that a special needs trust is just for one person. It is just for your adult child. My daughter's Lucy, so if my daughter had a disability and we needed a special needs trust for her, the only beneficiary of that trust while she is living is Lucy. So you cannot use special needs trust money to go buy concert tickets for her brother or something like that. That's not allowed. One other aspect of special needs trust that is key is that the beneficiary has no direct access to the special needs trust assets, meaning basically there needs to be a wall between the beneficiary and the money, which means the beneficiary cannot be the trustee of a special needs trust, of their own special needs trust, I should say. There are various types of special needs trusts. The two biggest types is there's a first party trust and a third party trust. The first party trust is also called a self-settled trust, a disability trust. and the third party trust is also often called a supplemental trust. What's the difference? So a first party trust is funded with the assets belonging to the individual who's the beneficiary. Usually this means that that money was in their name, in their possession at some point before it went into the trust. For example, um, your family does not do advanced estate planning. Both parents pass away, and all of a sudden, kid with adult child with special needs is the beneficiary and receives all of this money inheritance in their name. That is then their money, and that means their money needs to go into a special first party trust in order to maintain public benefit eligibility. Another example is lottery winnings or a personal injury settlement. So, and I see these a lot. Somebody's in a car wreck, they're receiving $100,000 from the defendant's insurance company. Well, that money is meant for them, and so that money has to go somewhere. I mean, if it's in their name, then they're going to most likely lose Medicaid and SSI. So often, personal injury settlements go into a special needs trust, a first party trust, and we do that quite often. A lot of times, I will work with personal injury attorneys who do the litigation, who get the settlement, or get to go to trial and win, and then I do the trust on the back end, and we kind of work together that way. One of the key aspects that is different about a first party trust is that there's a Medicaid payback provision. What this means is that if your adult child has a first party trust in their name, and when they pass away, there's still money in the first party trust, Medicaid is the remainder beneficiary, and they get reimbursed up to what they have spent on that individual, meaning and for the lifetime of that person. So if you have been on Medicaid your entire life and you get a first party trust and you pass away and there's 50 grand left in it, most likely the entire 50 grand is going to go back to Medicaid. So that's the big difference between first and third party trusts. Third party trusts, on the other hand, are funded with assets belonging to a third party, meaning parents, siblings, whomever. Typically, this is inheritance that is planned out ahead of time. So wills are drafted with the special needs trust within the will, saying that anything going to Lucy instead will go to Lucy's special needs trust on her behalf, and that's written before parents pass away as part of the estate planning for the family. And so none of those assets are ever directly given to Lucy. So it's a third party money, third party trust. There is no Medicaid payback provision in third party trusts, meaning if somebody passes away with third party trust and there's money in it, then the remainder beneficiaries is whoever is listed in the trust. Often, if they have siblings or if they have kids, it will go to them. All right. And then there's another difference regarding special needs trusts is you can either have an individual trust or you can have a pooled trust. Both first and third party trusts can be individual trust and pooled trust. So basically an individual trust is that there's a trust document drafted by an attorney for an individual, and usually mom or dad are the trustee, or they hire a professional trustee down the line, and that trustee administers how the trust is utilized, and they manage the trust solely for the beneficiary's benefit. A pooled trust is one established by an organization such as CFPD, this is the biggest one here in town, and they're typically nonprofits, and what they do is they invest in managing assets of all individuals within the pool trust. Each person has a separate bank account within the pool, but the nonprofit, they consolidate and pools the management and investment of all accounts together. The benefit of a pool trust is there are lower administrative fees. So a lot of people go that way, especially if they're going to receive, if their trust has not a ton of money in it. If they have 25 grand in it, a lot of times they'll go to CFPD to put it in a pool trust. That way, less administrative fees. So What can a special needs trust pay for? Um, Almost everything, almost anything. So think of recreation, vacations, entertainment. For instance, the Avs are playing tonight in about 20 minutes. Avs season tickets. That is perfectly reasonable for a special needs trust to pay for that. Cable TV, anything dealing with pets, subscriptions to whatever, Netflix, whatever. All of that can be paid for by a trust. Same with transportation. A vehicle could be bought by a trust. Any public transportation, fuel, insurance, medical care that is not covered by their health insurance already. So if there's something beyond what Medicaid will pay for example, a very super nice wheelchair, Medicaid will often pay for like what will work and not like something super fancy and nice and lightweight or whatever. So a special needs trust can pay for what Medicaid beyond what Medicaid can cover. DME, massage, hearing aids, everything you can think of that Medicaid may not. Also, a special needs trust can buy a house. It can any home maintenance, new furnace, new roof. The trust can pay for that. Clothing, phone, internet, appliances, kind of everything tangible within a house. Education, college, computer, books, services, attorney fees, guardian fees, therapies, burial plans. That's a big one that a lot of people do with trust money is burial plans. So just about anything you can think of, especially these trusts can pay for. And this is both first and third party regarding what a trust can pay for. But what can a trust not pay for? A special needs trust cannot give cash directly to the beneficiary. If it does that, it counts as income to the beneficiary, which means that person, if it's enough money, would lose SSI and maybe Medicaid because they would be over at the income limit based on how much it is. Um, uh, Basically anything, and also on top of cash, basically anything considered shelter or food. Food is a strange one because just recently Social Security has determined that a special needs trust can pay for food, but Medicaid has not gotten there yet. So I usually try to go by the Medicaid rules because usually that's the one that's a little more restrictive. But just know that there's a split between the federal Social Security office and the Colorado State Medicaid office right now on that issue. Fun times for lawyers. This is what we get to deal with. So mortgage, a trust cannot pay for without reducing that person's SSI. Same with rental property, rent, or taxes, rent, fuel, gas, etc., electricity. If a trust pays for any of this, it's considered what's called in-kind support or maintenance, also known as ISM. Basically, what that means is the beneficiary's SSI would get reduced. That's because Social Security will say your trust is paying for your rent. You don't need rent money from Social Security then. So we're going to reduce your SSI because you don't need our money. You have a trust paying for your rent. So some people will look at this and make a calculation and determine, you know what, it's worth it to lose 1/3 of my SSI in order to have my trust pay for my rent in a really nice place. So some people make that calculation depending on how much is in the trust. It's all an individual basis of how they want to configure and use their trust.
Chris, you've got a question in the chat. So you can buy a house with a trust, but not pay on the loan payment?
Correct. So if you buy a house, you can buy it outright. And so that one lump sum payment, $400,000, that's only in-kind support and maintenance that 1 month. But mortgage or a loan is every single month you're paying their rent or their mortgage. So every single month there's in-kind support and maintenance going. It's a little screwed up, but that's just what it says. So a lot of families, a lot of people I know will they have a special needs trust for their adult child. Maybe their adult child is um, independent enough that they can live on their own, but maybe we have a caregiver come in. They buy them like a condo or something like that. That's not, we're not talking a house, but a condo is what, 200 grand or whatever. Um, and it's one lump sum fee that one time, and then um, they're good to go. Yeah, it's a little screwed up, but that's just the nature of it.
Got it. Then the follow-up question was, if you can a parent deed their house to the trust if the house isn't fully paid off?
I mean, you can definitely deed your house to the trust. And then, I mean, special needs trusts, that happens all the time where family parents will give their house to their special needs kid in their will through to the special needs trust. So yeah, I mean, you as long as the mortgage keeps getting paid, the mortgage company will be fine with that, and that should be fine. One thing you
So
should
the
note
parent
is,
would pay the mortgage still rather than the trust paying the
oh,
mortgage?
if the parents are still alive,
Yes. Or I
yeah.
guess if they're dead. Like who in that situation, if the parents are alive, who pays the mortgage? And if the parents are dead, who pays the mortgage?
Well, if the parents are alive, they should keep it in their name because if they ever want to sell it,
Mhm.
and it's owned by the trust, that means the trust gets all the sale proceeds from it. Um, so if they're alive, I don't see why the parents would give their house that they still live in to their special needs kid through their trust. Usually, only when they pass away do they pass down their house to their special needs kid. A person on Medicaid and SSI can own a house and it's exempt. So they can own one house and it is exempt. They can own one car and it's exempt. So some people find it they'd rather just have the house in the person's name. Some people would rather have it in the special needs trust name. Again, it's based on a case by case basis there.
And then there's questions about if the house is owned by the trust, then is it subject to Medicaid clawback if it's a first party trust?
Yes. Any asset owned by a first party trust is potentially subject to um, Medicaid being the remainder beneficiary. But that house would have to be that person's house to begin with because it's the first part. If it's a first party trust, that's be their house. Unless they have more than one, they should not put their house in a first party trust because Medicaid may get it. So yes, so individual basis for all of these cases. Yeah, there's also, and I don't talk about it here, but even outside of first party trust, there is Medicaid estate recovery. If you are over 55, you receive HCBS or nursing home levels type services, and you pass away, then you are subject to Medicaid recovering from your estate. So that's a whole nother issue regarding your house and all that stuff. If you're on Medicaid when you're older. So
Thankfully, most of us still have much younger kids, but it's one of those things lingering in the background for many years in the future. Okay, I think
I
that's all
had
the
a good
questions in the chat so far.
Okay. I had a good friend, as an aside, I had a good friend pass away last year. He owned a house. I helped with the probate of it. And he was 57, so only on Medicaid 2 years past the age 55. He owed 400 and something $1,000 to Medicaid through Medicaid estate recovery. So there's house proceeds
Crazy.
gone. So because some people that's how much Medicaid pays on some people. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not. It's something in Colorado can't do anything about it. Medicaid estate recovery is a federal law, so Colorado has to follow that. So, all right,
Great.
back to special needs trust. Caution here: if you plan to give a portion of your estate to a person with disabilities, a child or brother or whatever, Most likely, you should not name him or her as a direct beneficiary if they're receiving public benefits because of what we've been talking about. It could have ramifications on their eligibility for Medicaid, SSI, or like food stamps. The only caveat to this would be if that person's on Medicaid buy-in and they no longer have the asset limit. For instance, I'm on Medicaid buy-in. I'm paralyzed. And so I don't have an asset limit I have to worry about being on Medicaid. So if my mom passes away and I get whatever inheritance comes to me, that's not going to kick me off my Medicaid because I'm on Medicaid buy-in, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. So instead of leaving money to your adult child with disabilities who is not on Medicaid buy-in, you have the will leave a portion of the estate to the special needs trust on behalf of the person with the disability. You can also name the special needs trust a beneficiary on your retirement account, your life insurance policy, deed the house to a special needs trust. Like a special needs trust is its own entity, and it can be a beneficiary of all of those. So other things to consider beyond just a special needs trust, like I said, Medicaid buy-in. Medicaid buy-in is a program for working adults with disabilities. It allows them to quote unquote buy into Medicaid. They pay a premium based on their income every month. You can find this online very easily. For example, based on my income, I pay $200 a month to Medicaid, which is quite much cheaper than any private health insurance I could buy. So Medicaid buy-in is great for that because I'm like, yes, I will give you $200 to stay on Medicaid because Medicaid works pretty well for me. The big benefit of Medicaid buy-in is there is no asset limit while you're on it. You just have to maintain Medicaid buy-in eligibility, you just have to work. So work an hour every month doing something in which somebody gives you money for that you can prove to Medicaid that you are working. And we're talking babysitting, dog walking, anything like that, because there's no minimum hourly limit right now for Medicaid buy-in. As long as you receive a monthly income doing something for somebody, you qualify. Which means you don't have to worry about that $2,000 asset limit, which is nice. So I can have money in the bank account, from income and work, and I don't have to worry about getting it under 2,000 at the end of every month. And there's a much higher income limit. I believe it's roughly, it goes up every year, but it's roughly, you can make up to roughly $11,000 a month and still maintain eligibility for Medicaid buy-in because they only count half of your income, which equals out to like $130,000 a year. Not too bad, right? So definitely something to consider if you have a disability and you kind of want to be free a bit of asset and income limits. Also something to consider, I know somebody else is going to talk about this, but ABLE accounts. They work great with individuals who have a special needs trust. There's an annual max contribution limit, but it is a nice way to have a rainy day fund for somebody with a disability, and they can save money using an ABLE account so that, one of those things happens where all of a sudden they need to pay for a new furnace on their house. They actually have money to do it. So it's a nice benefit to do that. All right. So
Favorite
that
of
was
the buy-in program too is there's no minimum amount. Like you don't have to work a lot. You could work walking a dog 1 hour a month for $20 and you are on the buy-in. Congratulations.
Yep, exactly. So it's a nice benefit, really. All right, so I have a little scenario here of what special needs planning looks in practice. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, you may recognize some names because I love Game of Thrones until the last season. If you haven't seen it and you really want to see it, maybe don't listen for the next 5 minutes because there are some spoilers, but it's been out for a while. So Ned and Caitlin, they are a married couple in their 40s with 2 children. who are age 16 and 13. They go to an attorney and complete their estate planning documents, which are wills, POAs, living wills, and a special needs trust for their youngest son, Bran. He is disabled and he will apply for Medicaid and SSI when he turns 18. Their wills say that if one spouse dies, the other spouse receives all of the deceased spouse's property. Once both spouses die, the remaining assets are to be split. 40% to their daughter Sansa, 60% to Bran's Special Needs Trust. Soon after finalizing the documents, they also buy 250 grand in life insurance, with one spouse being the other spouse being the initial beneficiary, and Bran's Special Needs Trust being the secondary beneficiary. 6 months later, Ned is beheaded by the king. It happens. In accordance with his will, all of his property goes to his wife, Caitlin. Caitlin also receives Ned's $250,000 life insurance policy. 2 years later, Caitlin dies at the Red Wedding. So, both parents are dead. Her remaining assets are split. 40% to Sansa, 60% to Bran's Special Needs Trust in accordance with her will. And any money she had left over from Ned's life insurance policy most likely just went straight to like her bank account, and so that would pass through her will to her kids. Sansa uses her inheritance to buy a few new dresses at King's Landing and to upgrade her quarters in Winterfell because she is now the queen of Winterfell, or whatever they call her now. And because Bran is a minor when his parents die, a guardian needs to be appointed. In their wills, Ned and Caitlin, they nominate their close family friend, Maester Luwin, as guardian for any minor children, which the probate court approves of soon thereafter. And then Caitlin also appoint Littlefinger, Peter Baelish, Master of Coin, and Ned's brother Benjen as co-trustees of Bran's Special Needs Trust. So if you know Game of Thrones, you know that Littlefinger is not the person you want running your trust. But I put this in there to show that they added him as a trustee because he was good with money. And sometimes you pick trustees, and unfortunately, you have the best intentions, but sometimes you choose wrong. So a lot of times having co-trustees is a great way to make sure there are not issues with who you pick as trustee. So Ned's brother Benjen being a co-trustee means he can watch over what Littlefinger does so that nothing happens to Bran's Special Needs Trust. The Special Needs Trust buys a small house outright for Bran in Winterfell and permits him to live there rent-free. He also pays for a case manager to visit Bran daily, sword lessons, horse riding lessons, and for a pass on a carriage so he can work part-time at the local market. With the case manager's help, Bran pays for all of his food and shelter expenses with his SSI and his paycheck. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of how it would happen. What would happen when you have wills and special needs trusts, and kind of what happens when parents pass away and kids receive the money. That is it for me. There is my website. You can email me. You can give me a call for a free consultation. I do consultations over Zoom almost exclusively now because it works for everyone. So if you have questions or want to meet, let me know. If you have questions now, I can answer.
There's one more in the chat. So it says, if the disabled person is still a minor and a relative wants to include them in their will, would you still have a special needs trust be named in that will and not be given directly to the person?
Yes. If they're a minor, they would not receive the money directly anyways. It would go into, if there's not what's called a testamentary trust within the will for minor kids, there would be an account set up by the court, by the probate court, which is a pain, to be honest. So it is better to have either a testamentary trust for minor kids within a will, or if they have disabilities, a special needs trust. The thing to know about a third-party special needs trust that nobody will tell you is that if you're an adult, if your child, when they become an adult, if it turns out they don't need Medicaid and SSI, the trustee can just give them the money from the third party special needs trust or set up another account in the name of that person. Because if they're not on Medicaid and not on SSI, they don't need to follow those rules. And the trustee, as long can just say, here, I'm going to violate the Medicaid and SSI rules by giving you this money, but you're not on those benefits anyway, so it's okay. So um, just because you put a special needs trust in when your kid is 10 doesn't mean they're beholden to it 20, 30 years down the line.
Got it. Okay, then another one. They have a will with a third party special needs trust to be set up upon death. Do they need any special needs a trust existing already?
Um, a lot of families will do that, and they had the special needs trust is what I call an empty vessel, where it's ready to receive the inheritance at the time, 30 years down the line or whatever. A lot of people do that. Some people like peace of mind, and they open a special needs trust account, a checking account at Chase Bank, and throw $200 in there just to have it open and ready to go. But that's not necessary. Some people like to do that, and some people just say, "I'll just leave it empty." Either way works fine.
Awesome. How much does it cost to set up a special needs trust? And can family support funding from the case management agencies pay for that?
The answer to the second question is maybe. It depends on who you're talking about. If it's Rocky Mountain Human Services and it's mill levy funding, then yes, I receive mill levy funding from Denver County each year. And so if you live in Denver County and you have a child with an IDD and you need a special needs trust, that special needs trust would be covered by the mill levy. Other counties, it really just depends on how they handle that type of money. Sometimes I do receive funding from like unmet need funds from other counties, but it's kind of a crapshoot. So it's kind of hard to tell in terms of how much it costs. Um, Anywhere from 2 to 4 grand, and it depends on the attorney you go to. Honestly, if somebody has a third party trust and wants to charge you over 4 grand for a third party trust, look elsewhere. I would say.
Fair. Yeah, family support funding is a crapshoot for all things, it feels like. Does a bank charge a fee for holding trust assets?
Maybe. I mean, banks charge fees for checking accounts and savings accounts. So I'm sure they would charge a fee for something, but usually it's not much, $4 or $5 a month, something like that. I imagine it would be small. Depends on the bank.
Mhm. Awesome. Katie saying she'll reach out to you. She's gonna hear from your family.
Yeah. If anyone has just like verbal question they want to ask, they can do that too right now instead of typing in.
Yeah. I know, as the presenter, I always get tired of hearing myself talk. I always appreciate when other people talk.
This was just really good information. It's hard to future plan sometimes and think about all the things. Yeah.
So I saw Cindy's message. I apologize, Cindy. I did see you left me a few messages. I'm busy, and voicemails sometimes can just go unanswered. I just can't get to them. Email is the best way to get a hold of me, honestly. My email is at the end of the presentation, so that you'll get to me quicker that way.
I've tried a little bit of everything, so thank you. That's why I
Yeah.
asked your preference because I know you guys get so busy. So thank you. I will do
Yeah.
that.
So, anybody else? All right, and we can let Chris go watch the Avs game, I
Well,
assume.
put my daughter to bed. It's my night. It's my turn
Fair.
tonight. So I'll do
Yep.
that first, and then the Avs game.
Oh, you got
Oh.
another question before you run. Is a bank savings account a trust, or is a trust more than that? So what kind of account can it be in?
You can have a trust. You can have a checking account in the name of a trust, simple checking account or a simple savings account. That's totally fine. It doesn't need to be some complex entity, at a bank. So yeah.
Can you have multiple accounts, like a bank account and an investment account in the same trust?
Yep. The special needs trust can be the owner of all of those: investment account, house, car, checking account, savings account. It's its own entity. It has its own tax ID. So yes,
You have to file its own tax returns then?
it's no, well, it's through you kind of. It's an extra document. So if you have a special needs trust and you generate income from the trust, um, definitely go to an accountant to see handle that. But yeah, if it's a special needs trust generates income, the tax rate is much higher than it is on individuals. So so if you have a bank account or investment account and you generate $1,000 in income, it'll be taxed at a higher rate. But so there's a bit of complication there. Yeah.
Got it. All right. Any last questions? Once, going twice.
I have a question. I was distracted and missed the question about if FSSP funds or unmet needs can help pay for setting that up. Did you say yes?
As long as the county's okay with it. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'll of course take their money.
Yeah.
It's but sometimes some counties say no, you can't use lawyer fees for that. We don't pay for lawyer fees. And you're like, well, it's for a trust. And some counties are cool with it, even though they normally don't do attorney's fees.
Okay.
And some counties still say no attorney's fees will be paid for by our unmet needs funds. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
What county
I
do you
would
live in?
try DDRC
I'm in Jeffco, and I know they paid for an advocate multiple times, but I haven't asked for anything else regarding legal.
Is that Imagine? Who's Jeffco?
was DDRC, and now it's
Yeah.
Jefferson County Case Management Agency.
Yes.
But DDRC still has some funds. I would start there.
Yeah, ask them.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Megan.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate it. Thanks for spending part of your night with us. Good luck with bedtime.
All right.
Right. Next up, we have more conversation about money and stuff with able accounts. So able accounts are going to be cheaper to set up, but they have other limits and such too. Mike, I think I saw you on here.
I am. I'm here. Thank you.
Oh, everybody gets lost in my Zoom when I see it that way. Awesome. Thanks for joining us. I'll let you introduce yourself and share what you've got for us. And
Thank
I'll
you.
watch the chat
Yeah,
for you.
so my name is Mike Keglowitz, and I manage able accounts for Colorado. And if people have, oh, sorry, I'm trying to share, but I need to do something else real quick.
Good. It did the same thing to Chris too, that it was like black at first. There it goes.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so I manage able accounts for the state of Colorado. So if people have questions along the way, they're welcome to ask. If you want to wait till the end, that's fine too. If you type them in while I'm presenting, I probably won't see them because I'm not great at multitasking that way. But to give you a little background, I work for the state of Colorado, and underneath the state, I work for the Department of Higher Ed. And then below that, I work for College Invest. So I do some things on the College Invest side. And then underneath that is Colorado Able. And so when they passed legislation, they said who's ever managing the college savings program for the state of Colorado is also, or whatever state, is also going to be managing the Able accounts because the tax code is very similar. College savings is a 529. An Able account is a 529A. And that it just has a lot more flexibility than what a regular college savings account is. So we'll talk about some of the differences and that sort of thing. The real benefit of the Able account is that it's an exempt resource. So anything that's in the Able account does not count towards that $2,000 asset cap that SSI and Medicaid have. So if the individual has over $2,000 in total assets, they can lose those federal benefits. But if it's an Enable account, then that's exempt, so they can go beyond that $2,000 and they can save for things and create financial security for themselves. Historically, a lot of times people would be you know, at the end of the month, they might have $2,300 or $2,400 in their account. And they would go out and they would buy an Xbox, or they would buy games, or they would buy a recliner or a bed, and drop that account below the 2,000 so that they could still maintain their federal benefits. And now that they have an ABLE account, it's a very easy, easy account that they can transfer that money in, and they can save for things that are more meaningful. And we'll talk more about what types of things you can use it for. In the ABLE world, once money's in there, that money grows tax deferred, and you also have tax-free access as long as they're using it for qualified disability expenses. The other thing is there's one account per person. So in the college savings world, a kid could have a grandparent, an aunt, and a parent all have different accounts for them for college. In the ABLE world, it's just one account per person. So you can't do multiple accounts, but multiple people can put money into that account on behalf of them, but they just can't open up different accounts. This is changing, but right now the onset of disability needs to occur before age 26. What's changing in January is this is going up to age 46. So before age 46, the onset of disability needs to occur. So it probably doesn't affect a lot of folks in this group, but you know, traumatic brain injuries and spinal cord injuries or degenerative diseases now are going to be eligible for ABLE, when you know historically things that happened later in life weren't. So the other thing is, so if they meet the age requirement, if they're on SSI or SSDI as a result of a disability, then they can just open up an ABLE account. They don't need to do anything else. If they're not on SSI or SSDI, but they're still considered disabled, they would just get a doctor's letter saying that they meet the definition of being severely disabled. They do not need to submit that letter, but annually they're supposed to get that updated through the doctor. So you might ask, well, why would somebody that's not on Medicaid or Social Security, why would they want to have an ABLE account if they're, you know, working, but they're disabled? You know, there's lots of different examples, but one of my best friends growing up, when he was in his early 20s, he was in an automobile accident, and he's a paraplegic now. He finished college. He worked as an accountant for a number of years, and now later in life, the last at least 5 years, he has not worked because he's developed a lot of pressure sores, and if we would have had ABLE accounts when he was young, he could have been putting money in there, even though he had benefits and he, you know, was saving money. Now he's at a point where all those things are being drawn down until eventually he gets to the point where you know, it's going to be under that 2,000 threshold, and then he will qualify for Medicaid or SSI or SSDI, depending on that. So sometimes people can do it proactively and put money in because they know they may be dealing with you know, difficulties related to that issue down the road. So just being proactive about it. Does anybody have any questions so far?
There's one in the chat. Can SSI payments go directly into the ABLE account?
They can go in to the ABLE account. So yeah, you can use it that way if you need to.
Awesome.
So the other thing is, and we got rid of this a couple of years ago, but I always like to remind people because I get this question often. When we first launched, for the first 4 years or so, Medicaid could come back after the person died that was eligible for ABLE. They could come back and seek reimbursement depending on how much they've paid out. This was eliminated a couple of years ago, so Medicaid can no longer come and seek reimbursement from that account. So if the individual has an ABLE account and there's money in there, something happens, it does make sense to have like a basic will, because that money can transfer to you know, maybe the person that put the money into the account, or maybe it's siblings, just depending on you know, who would make the most sense. So you can always put up to $19,000 into the ABLE account. If they have earned income, you can do more. you can do just over 15,000. You can do the 100% of the federal poverty limit of the prior year. Um, but you have to make that amount. So if that person has earned income and they make $5,000 for the year, they can do 5,000 on top of the 19. They wouldn't be able to do 10 because they don't make 10. Um, it's also really flexible where it can come from. It can come from different individuals. It can come from a trust. It can really come from a lot of different places.
I know there was a bill that was going through the legislature this year that had some talk about confirming that it can come from first party trusts, not just third party trusts. Do you know where that landed at or if that is true?
That's we will see that we have some we'll see what happens. So what you are referring to, Megan,
Sure.
is uh Medicaid, HIGPUF did not care if money was being transferred from a trust to an ABLE account. They didn't care about that until we got rid of Medicaid recovery. And when we got rid of Medicaid recovery, then they came back and they said, did Christopher, did he talk about the difference between a first party and third party trust?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So first party is from an individual that, if I got hit by a bus and I got a settlement, I put it into a trust so that I can qualify for Medicaid and Social Security. I can use that money for things, but it's my money. That's a first party trust. And so Medicaid or HIGPUF is trying to say, hey, uh, in a first party trust, because that money, if something happens to me, that money goes back to the state. It goes back to HIGPUF. Uh, but they're trying to say, well, you can't take money from a first party trust and put it to an ABLE account because an ABLE account now, if that person dies, it would go to whoever their beneficiaries are, and they want to keep that money. Uh, we feel we and a lot of people feel like a trust is considered an individual, and individuals, according to the IRS, are allowed to contribute money into an ABLE account. So honestly, it feels like they're going against federal law on this, and hopefully in this legislation cycle that we can get some clarification on this language on there. So I don't know. We will see. Third party trusts, they don't care because third party trust that goes back to other individuals because it's not the individual's money, it's someone else's money that's funding that. So they don't care about that transaction. They just care about the first party trust. So that's what the issue is. We will see if that gets cleaned up or not. So fingers crossed.
Sorry for my in the weeds question. We have a couple other good questions in the chat too. Is that $19,000 annually or the total that can be in the account?
Yeah, so it's annually. Total over the history, you can do 500,000. Honestly, I wouldn't worry about the 500,000 because when we launched 7.5 years ago, it was 350,000, and now it's 500,000. Like I think that's just over time is just going to continue to go higher and higher. College tuition is not going lower. It follows the same rules as what the college tuition is, and that's going to continue to go higher. So I wouldn't worry about the maximum of there. But yeah, that's an annual amount.
Yeah, it takes a lot of $19,000 years before you get to 500,000.
Correct. Exactly.
Then the other question is somebody's seen something about a checking Colorado Able account. How does that work?
I have a slide on that might be a little easier to explain.
Perfect.
So I will get there shortly. So qualified disability expenses, really the rule of thumb is if that individual who's eligible for an ABLE account, if they are benefiting from it, it's probably a qualified disability expense. If somebody else is benefiting, it's probably not a qualified disability expense. So if the individual went out to Chili's and they bought their food, great, no problem. If they went out on a date and bought their food and the person that they're going on a date with, that's probably not qualified disability expense. At the end of the day, like the IRS or Social Security would have to find that and through an audit to find it. But if you went to Chili's and bought food for 10 or 15 people and it was a $22,000 bill, that probably would bring that would probably alert some people. So it can, all these are outlined by the IRS, and these are all very general categories. So education, very general. Housing out of a trust, you can't pay for housing. So an able account makes that a lot more usable. That's one of the reasons that it works really well with a trust, because a trust, you can't pay for basic living expenses or housing, because it's assumed that Social Security is taking care of those things. And so, but an able account, you can pay for all of those things. Prevention and wellness, like going on vacation, is that healthy? Is that preventing sickness? I would say yes. So going on vacation works. If you needed somebody to go with you to help, you could pay for them. You're just not paying for the whole family to go out of the able account. So these are all general categories. A lot of things can really fit in there, which makes them very, very usable.
Can it pay for a caregiver to go on vacation with them if they need a caregiver?
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Anything to keep a household up and running. So if an individual's an adult and they're living with their parents, but they're paying rent, and it would be important to have like have a lease type of thing, a rental agreement in place, and maybe they're paying percentage, if they're 25% of the household. Likewise for, if it's gas and electricity and that sort of stuff, as long as you have it in writing, shouldn't be a problem with that. So the other big number is that $100,000 mark. So if the account gets over 100,000, SSI would stop. If it fell back below, SSI would start up again. If you notice, I do not have SSDI in there. SSI is a welfare benefit, so that does get suspended. But SSDI is based on either the parents' work history if they're retired, or if they're deceased, or the able eligible individual's work history. So if they have accumulated 10 years of work, they might have SSDI. SSDI is not affected by that $100,000 mark, and Medicaid is also not affected by that $100,000 mark. So the only real concern would be SSI, with that amount. So typically, if the account gets over 90,000, we would reach out and say, "Hey, your account's getting really close. We don't want you to lose your benefits. What's your plan or your intention with this?" If they say we want to go above that 100,000 mark, then we'll accept checks, in excess of 100,000. If they say no, then we wouldn't accept a check that would jeopardize their standing. So the other thing is, it just going back to the trust, why trusts, like an able account, a lot of people get confused that they think able accounts are trusts. It is not. It doesn't have a trustee. The other thing is, it can't really do the same thing as a trust. Like if somebody dies and they have $100,000 life insurance policy and they have some other assets, an able account can only take $19,000 a year. So you would still need to have a trust for that money to go in there, because an able account really is designed to being used. It's not designed to accept large amounts of money there. So. All right, so we have two sides. So the whole thing, the yellow and the blue, are all under the umbrella of Colorado Able. On the left side, we have the yellow. Those are different investment options. They are all through Vanguard index funds for the most part, and we have aggressive down to conservative. So somebody could say, "Oh, well, I'm going to put 15% in the aggressive option. So maybe that's a 10, 15 year plus time horizon. And then I'm going to put 35 into the conservative option. Maybe it's something shorter term in the next, 3 to 5 years. And then the rest of the money I'm going to put into the checking slash debit card or debit account. It is through Fifth Third Bank is the checking option. We do not have a brick and mortar bank here in Colorado. So whatever you do, if you do one or the other or both, you're going to have a virtual bank experience. You're going to be logging in to check the account. You can call customer service to get help and support, but you're not going to be walking into a building to get that help and support. Um, but customer service is really helpful. They're really attentive, and if you have other questions, typically those questions of like very specific account, I don't have account access, or I would say you could call me, but those specific types things would be best to reach out to customer service or logging in. So to do this, if you sign up for electronic delivery of the statements and you're a Colorado resident, it's $8.25 per quarter. So every 3 months, $8.25 is taken out. And it's the same if you would put it all in investments, or if you did it all in checking, or if you did a little bit in each, it's just the same cost on that. When we first launched, we were at $15 per quarter, and then it was it was around $12 if you had the electronic delivery of statements. So the price is coming down as more people have accounts and there's more assets that are in there. It is bringing the cost down, but it just is taking some time.
Got a question in the chat. How do you deal with an able account if you move to a new state?
Yeah, it's like any other, banking option, like your debit card. If you have Wells Fargo and you go to Nebraska or you go to Alabama, like you can use it like anywhere else. You don't have to change able accounts. The only reason I would change if I moved to a different state, like Colorado, for instance, if you live in Colorado and you put money into the able account, you can deduct that on your Colorado state taxes, so you get a tax deduction on those contributions. And certain states offer that if you use their state program as opposed to using a different state. So, for instance, if I moved to Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania does have the state deduction. I might consider opening an account and transferring those funds into it. If I'm putting in a decent amount of money annually. But if not, like it's fine. You can just continue to have the same account and live anywhere in the United States for that.
Awesome. And then another question is, can money in an able account be transferred to a special needs trust?
So I wouldn't go that way because it goes back to the qualified disability expenses. Uh, Going into a trust that's not really a qualified disability expense. You can go from a trust to an able, but not really the other way. Like you want to keep track of receipts. You don't have to submit the receipts, but if the account was ever challenged, and that's just kind of a gray area, putting it back into a trust. Like it's not really, it's not, it it's not really like an expense that they're benefiting from, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't go that way with it. Likewise, like you can take money and put it back into a regular checking account. You might ask, well, why would somebody have a regular checking account and an able checking account? Well, everybody's different. Maybe they like to buy birthday presents for people, or they like to buy Christmas presents for people, or they want to go out on a date and they want to buy food for somebody else. So it could make sense for somebody to have both a regular account. You can take money and put it into that regular account, but for certain things, if you carry it over from 1 month to the next, for instance, like if it was a rent check, it actually then counts as a resource, and it's not a qualified disability expense, and they have to pay tax on that money. It's not the end of the world. Like they pay tax, and it's a 10% penalty. But if you just keep it in the able account and pay for qualified disability expenses, like you don't have to worry about that. Or if you pay for rent out of that able account, you don't have to worry about that. So that's just something to think about. So the other thing is Fifth Third Bank, they do have a $2 a month checking fee, but it's waived if they have an average monthly balance of $250, or again, if they sign up for the electronic delivery of the statement. So very easy to be able to avoid the checking fee. So at this point, you're like, holy moly, this is the most exciting presentation I've ever seen on able accounts. I'm going to rush out and sign up. First thing you do is you would go to coloradoable.org. You'd read the plan disclosure document, which is like 130 pages of pure excitement. And then once you get through that, what you'd want to have on hand is social, date of birth, permanent street address, email address. If the person is under 18, then it's going to be a parent or guardian, or it could be, usually it's a parent or guardian at that point, would open it up on behalf of that person. So they would have to put their child's information in there, and then they would have to put their information in there. And when they get to close to 18, we reach out and say, hey, what's the intention of this account? Is this person capable of managing a financial account? If they are, then it becomes theirs, and they control it. If they want to have a second pair of eyes or somebody to be able to help out on the account, they would need to submit a power of attorney for that person to be able to help. We do have a form section, and we have a power of attorney form on our website. It does need to be notarized and sent in. That's if somebody is capable of managing the account, but they want a second pair of eyes to receive statements to look at it, or they want a second pair of eyes to receive that, and they want somebody to transact. They can transact on the account. They can select kind of what level of access that individual could have. Then the other case would be we reach out and say, hey, what's your intention? That they're going to be over 18. And the person says, well, they're not capable of managing the account. So they would still be the person on the account, but it could be a parent, it could be a guardian, it could be a grandparent, aunt, uncle, sibling, or a rep payee could be the one that's managing it on behalf of that individual. So
They don't have to have official guardianship to be able to manage that still?
nope. And they're attesting online. Like we adopted, the IRS came out with a hierarchy of people that can manage it, and Colorado also adapted that. So it's a hierarchy of needs. It's a parent, guardian, I think it's grandparent, sibling, all the way down. Rep payee is the bottom of that, but they're attesting. So if they're signing up and saying I'm supposed to be doing this, and then they really weren't, like, they can be in trouble through the law. So, but yeah, they do not need to have guardianship, which is a big change. Before that, we did require, either power of attorney or guardianship, and sometimes people don't have guardianship paperwork, or it was a lot more difficult. So it's been a nice change. I will say, like, for an able account, like sometimes I get this question a lot, like, hey, my son or daughter, you know, they are not very good with money. They an able account doesn't have a trustee like a trust would, where that person is a gatekeeper of being able to access that. And so sometimes there's a lot of gray areas of whether somebody should, have the debit card and being transacting on the account or not. Like I get it. There's a lot of gray areas, and people manage that differently. I don't really have a magic wand to be able to say, oh, this is what you should do. Like it's a double-edged sword. Like there's creating financial security versus personal responsibility. Like sometimes there's both of those things that you kind of have to deal with.
Yeah. Then another question from the chat from Marion: does the ABLE account need to have a beneficiary?
So there's actually not any beneficiaries on the account. You have the able eligible individual, they're the actual owner of the account. And then if they don't manage it or somebody's managing on behalf of them, it's an authorized individual or an agent that's on it. And then there's no beneficiary on that. So if they're going to have a decent amount of assets in there, it would make sense to have a basic will in there, that if something happened, that money, goes into probate, and probate knows exactly where that money's going, so they don't need to charge the estate to figure that out. It might be going back to the parent, it might be going, somewhere else, but there's not a named beneficiary on the account. And at this point, there has not been any conversation of trying to add that to the account.
Sounds good. I gotta say, I love all the self-attestation sort of stuff. It's like, you guys have found a way to do disability things without tremendous administrative overhead burden. It's amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. Um, so there's one or two bills right now in the late session. We will see. I One of them is the Colorado State deduction of being able to continue to deduct that. That's supposed to sunset this year. Um, so far, it has been kind of sliding through pretty easily through appropriations in the House and the Senate. So we're hopeful that the state deduction will continue. We no Medicaid recovery, so people have been really excited about that because a lot of times people didn't want to put money in or have the account because they were worried that that money was going to go back to the state. So they didn't really want to, that wasn't very exciting for folks. So the other thing that House bill, we adopted that hierarchy where it was easier for people to open it up on behalf of someone else. So we will see if the deduction gets continued. It would be a 5-year continuation of that. And the other thing is we're hoping that we can get that language cleaned up with the trust, the first party trust into the able account. But we will see. I'm a mere pawn in this game, so we will see what happens. The
I have
other
a
thing.
personal investment in that piece passing because we've got a kiddo with a first party trust. And I'm like, come on, Abel, let's do it.
Yeah, it doesn't affect a ton of people, but the people it affects, like it's it would be a nice it would be very nice for them to do that. So we will see. So the other thing is if you open up an account and you don't put the 19,000 in right away, which there's usually a handful every month that do that. Colorado Able puts in $25 to help get you started. It helps to defer some of those the $8.25 per quarter. So you have a good 6 months or more that some of the fees are covered. So. This is my contact information. If you have any questions at all, feel free to give me a call, and I answer all kinds of questions about able accounts, about their specific situation. Happy to help, and yeah, if anybody has any other questions or comments, happy to stick around and answer those.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
And it's in the chat, so don't have to ask it again. Okay, so there's no Medicaid recovery. There's no beneficiary document. Does the ABLE account honor a beneficiary's will?
Well, it would be probate, but yeah, you don't need to put that on file or anything. Probate would take that in and decide that. But yeah, we would recommend having a will for sure.
Okay.
And then you get another question in the chat. If they're in the process of getting SSI for their daughter, should they wait to get an ABLE account till that's approved, or should they just do it and self-certify now?
It depends. I mean, I get a lot of calls where people, like an uncle, put aside $5,000 for little Timmy, and little Timmy now, has 5,000. They can't qualify for SSI. So an ABLE account makes a lot of sense in that situation. It really is a case by case basis whether it makes sense to do it now or to wait. Yeah.
The self-certification process for saying they have a disability is pretty easy, right?
Yeah, they just literally go to the doctor, and if if you go to the ABLE National Resource Center, they have a document on their website that you can have a doctor fill out to self-certify. I've contemplating putting that on our website, and we'll do that. But yeah, like it's easy.
Thank you. I haven't found that form, but that's what I wondered is how difficult it is to get that done.
Yeah, no, it's not it shouldn't be a heavy lift.
Okay,
And the
great.
other thing is you do not submit that in to us, like that's protected by HIPAA. So, best practice would be going and getting self-certified and getting that letter. Uh, you know, but yeah, that's all I'll say on that.
You can't say on the recording that you don't really need it.
Well, I've never said that, Megan. You don't put
No,
words in,
you,
but
you
you should
can't say
definitely
that.
get it. Have it on file, but uh, we don't collect that.
Right, you don't need it, but we need it to protect ourselves if we're setting up an account, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
is that a good way to say that? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
That's all the questions from the chat. Anybody else? I always let the awkward silence sit for a minute. Another one. So it's good to start Enable while they're young, and then when they turn 18 and apply for SSI, it won't affect their eligibility.
Correct. So the other thing is, and I'll just say this, I don't know the age of the folks that are able eligible in this group. But on my college invest side of things, if I put my college invest hat on, uh, I manage the special programs for college invest. Any kid that's born or adopted in Colorado starting in 2020 or after, if they open up a college invest account, they open or they sign up for it's called First Step. We put in $118 to get them going, and then we match $500 a year for 5 consecutive years. So you can get over $2,600 in free money. Once you do that, then you could take that money and roll it into the Able account. So, and maybe college is the answer. Maybe it's not. If it's not, you can roll it into the Able account. You can still use it for college or higher ed if that's something that you want, or you can use it for all those other things that it makes it much more usable. So we have that program if you had a young kid that had a disability. That's a way that you could jumpstart it and then transfer it over into Able. So,
Is there any reason why you would are there any advantages to traditional 529 like college savings account versus an Able that might make it where you'd want both?
um, so a couple of things on this. One, the the college invest world, like if you did like direct portfolio, we have literally, I'm not even sure, like $10 billion in assets in that program. So it's very, very cheap. Able's pretty cheap, but we have $40 million, a million, not 10 billion. So the other one's a little cheaper, like in terms of like the management fees on the investments, or not management, but uh, they have a little fee. It's not going to be that significant, but that's one difference between the two programs. What else did you ask about that?
Just like if you've got somebody with a disability who might go to college or will likely go to college, is there any reason to have both a college
Yeah, I
investment
mean,
and an Able?
the other
Other than the 19,000 a year, I guess.
yeah, the other thing I was going to say about this is that rolling money over, you can only do 19,000, and it does count for that year's contributions into the account. So if you're rolling money from a college savings program into the Able program, you can only do that rollover, and then you can't do additional money on top of that. It's not like a rollover for an IRA or that sort of thing. So uh, yeah, I mean, there's probably not a huge significant advantage of having both, honestly.
Fair.
But I mean, in the 529 world, you can put a lot more than 19,000 in. So if you really wanted to save a lot of money, but still at the end of the day, it would still, to transfer that money over would take, a long time. If you had like 150,000 in there, it would take a number of years to do that. So.
Got it. It's just thank yous in the chat. Anybody else?
Thank you.
120 plus. Awesome.
So
If y'all didn't fill the
the
sign
last
in
thing-
sheet at the beginning,
oh.
please do. Oh yes, go ahead, Mike.
One more thing I'll say, like, sometimes there's situations where people have difficulty, like, for instance, they want to put multiple people on the Able account that are agents and working on behalf. Sometimes it gets really difficult to get that approved. And the other thing is, each of those people have to sign off if they're like requesting a check or that type of thing. I typically recommend just having the one person, like sometimes like both of the couple want to do it, or if they're divorced or, whatever their situation is, it does make it more difficult to kind of navigate that when at the end of the day, it's really easy to transfer an account. Like if somebody was managing it for a number of years and they didn't want to do it anymore, or it's easy to transfer that over to someone else. But if you get into a catch-22 where you're calling and for some reason paperwork's been lost or it's been difficult, those are the types of things I can help with. Like if you give me a call, I can usually solve those, pretty quickly with the access that I had. Like I can usually have a manager follow up with you rather than just kind of the first level of support. So if you're kind of, multiple calls and things aren't getting solved, those are the things I can help out with if you have issues. So.
Awesome. Thank you. I so appreciate that. It's always good to know the people that can happen. And then Nicole asked what happens to the Able account if the person passes away.
Yeah, so it would just go if they had a will, it would go into probate and it would go to those people that would be named. If they didn't have a will, it would go into probate, and probate would figure out who should get that money based on the relationship. So yeah, so it does not go back to the state. That was a number of years ago that was the case. Now it goes to people that were significant in that person's life.
Awesome.
Cool. I'll send my deck, Megan, as a PDF, and you're welcome to share it, or you have the recording as well.
I'll put it with the recording when we put it on our website. Thank you so
Awesome.
much, Mike. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, go Avs and go Nugs.
Thank you.
And the Rockies might be playing at some point too.
Oh man, did they still have a team?
I think so. All right, have a good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you
Thank you.
next month.
See you next month.